The humble beginnings. Marcus Jackson was no stranger to hardship. Growing up in a small, tight-knit community on the outskirts of Savannah, Georgia, he had always been captivated by the world of art. As a child, he would sit by the bay, sketching the boats drifting lazily across the horizon. His mother often said he had a gift, but Marcus saw it more as an escape, a way to express emotions that words could never convey. Now in his mid-20s, Marcus found himself at a crossroads. Living in a modest one-bedroom apartment, he juggled two part-time jobs, stocking shelves at a grocery store during the day and delivering food at night. Every spare penny he earned went toward art supplies, canvases, brushes, and vibrant oil paints that carried the weight of his dreams. He spent countless nights painting, his small kitchen table doubling as a makeshift studio. The scent of paint lingered in the air as he worked tirelessly under the dim glow of a desk lamp. Despite his passion, Marcus faced an uphill battle. The art world, as he knew, was not an easy one to break into, especially for someone without formal training or connections. But Marcus believed in his work. His pieces were raw, emotional, and deeply personal, capturing the struggles and joys of everyday life in a way that resonated with those who saw them. His friends often encouraged him, saying his art deserved to be in galleries. However, the path to recognition seemed elusive. One fateful morning, Marcus decided to take a leap of faith. Armed with a portfolio of his best work and a carefully wrapped canvas, he ventured into the city to visit Langston Gallery, an upscale establishment known for showcasing emerging artists. As he approached the gallery, his heart pounded with both excitement and trepidation. The exterior was grand, with tall glass windows revealing pristine white walls adorned with carefully curated pieces. Marcus took a deep breath, adjusted his worn denim jacket, and stepped inside. The interior of the gallery was even more intimidating. Sleek, minimalist design dominated the space, with spotlights highlighting each artwork. The patrons were equally polished, men in tailored suits and women in designer dresses murmuring softly as they admired the exhibits. Marcus felt out of place, but he pressed on, determined to make his case. Behind the counter stood Mr. Langston, the gallery's owner. Tall and impeccably dressed, Langston exuded an air of superiority. He eyed Marcus with thinly veiled disdain as the young artist approached. "Excuse me, sir," Marcus began, holding out his portfolio. "I was hoping to show you some of my work. I'm an artist, and I think my pieces would fit well in your gallery." Langston raised an eyebrow, his lips curling into a condescending smile. "An artist, you say?" he drawled, his tone dripping with skepticism. He glanced at Marcus's attire, his scuffed sneakers and paint-streaked jacket, and shook his head. "I'm not sure our clientele would be interested in this sort of thing." "But you haven't even seen my work," Marcus protested, his voice steady but tinged with frustration. He carefully unwrapped the canvas he had brought, revealing a vibrant piece depicting a mother and child in an embrace, their faces radiating love and resilience. Langston barely glanced at the painting before dismissing it with a wave of his hand. "Look, kid," he said, leaning over the counter. "This isn't some flea market. We cater to a certain standard here, and frankly, you don't meet it." The words stung, but Marcus refused to let them break him. "Art is about emotion," he replied, his voice firm. "It's about connection, not status or pedigree." Langston laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "You clearly don't understand how this business works. My advice? Stick to whatever it is you're doing and leave the art world to the professionals." Humiliated but not defeated, Marcus left the gallery. The weight of Langston's words pressed heavily on his shoulders, but as he walked the city streets, his mind churned with determination. If Langston couldn't see the value in his art, Marcus decided, he would show it to the world in his own way. That evening, back in his small apartment, Marcus sat before a blank canvas. The rejection replayed in his mind, each cutting remark fueling his resolve. He picked up his brush, the vibrant colors of his palette reflecting the fire in his heart. As he worked, the pain and frustration transformed into something powerful, a reminder of his worth and the stories he wanted to tell. By dawn, a new masterpiece stood before him, a testament to his resilience and unyielding spirit. Marcus knew his journey was just beginning, and no amount of rejection would deter him from reaching for the stars. A breakthrough opportunity. The late afternoon sun filtered through the trees, casting dappled patterns on the worn concrete path. Marcus often sought solace in the park when the world felt too heavy. It was a place of quiet inspiration, where he could observe life in its purest forms, children playing, couples walking hand in hand, and the gentle sway of leaves in the breeze. Today was no different. Sitting on a weathered bench with his easel propped before him, Marcus poured his soul onto the canvas. As he worked, he lost himself in the strokes of his brush, blending vibrant hues to create a scene bursting with life. He was painting an elderly street musician playing his saxophone, his weathered face etched with decades of stories. It was the kind of art Marcus loved most, capturing raw emotion and the beauty in everyday moments. Unbeknownst to Marcus, a woman had stopped to watch him work. Dressed in a flowing blouse and wide-brimmed hat, she exuded an air of quiet sophistication. Her name was Eleanor Sinclair, a renowned artist whose works had graced galleries around the world. Eleanor had been walking through the park, seeking inspiration of her own, when she stumbled upon Marcus. "What incredible depth," she murmured, stepping closer. Marcus, startled, turned to see the stranger observing his painting. "Sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you," Eleanor said, her voice warm and genuine. "But your work, it's extraordinary." Marcus flushed with a mix of pride and embarrassment. "Thank you," he said cautiously. "I just paint what I feel." "That much is obvious," Eleanor replied with a smile. "You have a gift, young man. May I see more of your work?" Unsure of who she was, but encouraged by her interest, Marcus pulled out his phone and showed her photos of his previous pieces. Eleanor studied them intently, nodding as her admiration grew. "These are remarkable," she said. "Tell me, are you represented by any gallery or agency?" Marcus hesitated before shaking his head. "No. I've tried, but it hasn't gone well. People don't seem to take me seriously." Eleanor's expression softened. "Unfortunately, the art world can be unkind to those without connections. But talent like yours deserves to be seen." She paused, considering her next words. "There's an online platform I think you should try. It's called ArtSphere, a community for independent artists to showcase and sell their work. I believe it could be a game changer for you." Marcus thanked her, skeptical, but willing to give it a shot. Eleanor handed him her card before leaving, encouraging him to reach out if he needed guidance. That evening, Marcus created a profile on ArtSphere. Uploading high-quality photos of his paintings, he carefully wrote descriptions that shared the stories behind each piece. As he clicked publish, he felt a mix of hope and apprehension. Would anyone care about his work? To his astonishment, the response was immediate. Within days, his profile began attracting attention. Comments poured in from users around the world, praising his talent and the emotional depth of his pieces. One particular painting, titled Melody of Resilience, inspired by the saxophonist he'd painted in the park, became a viral sensation, shared across social media platforms. Orders for prints and original works started flooding in. Marcus could hardly keep up, spending every waking hour painting and packaging pieces to ship. The income was a revelation, allowing him to purchase better supplies and focus more time on his art. Then came the email that changed everything. A well-known art collector, Richard Caldwell, had stumbled upon Marcus's ArtSphere profile. Intrigued by his story and captivated by his work, Caldwell offered to purchase Melody of Resilience for an extraordinary sum, $50,000. For Marcus, it was more money than he had ever seen in his life. The transaction marked a turning point. With Caldwell's endorsement, Marcus's reputation soared. Articles began circulating about the self-taught artist from Savannah who was taking the art world by storm. Local and national media outlets reached out for interviews, eager to learn more about the young man whose paintings had captured the hearts of so many. Eleanor, true to her word, became a mentor to Marcus. She guided him through the complexities of contracts, pricing, and navigating his newfound fame. Through her connections, Marcus was invited to participate in a virtual exhibition featuring emerging artists, further solidifying his place in the art world. For Marcus, the success was surreal. Only months earlier, he had been dismissed and humiliated at Langston Gallery. Now, he was a rising star, celebrated for the very work that had been deemed unworthy. Yet, he remained humble, attributing his success to perseverance and the support of those who believed in him. As he looked around his small apartment, now filled with canvases and accolades, Marcus couldn't help but smile. The world was finally beginning to see the beauty he had always believed in, rising star in the art world. The transformation in Marcus's life was nothing short of extraordinary. Only a year earlier, he had been painting on a park bench, hoping for a break. Now, he stood under the dazzling lights of an international art exhibition in Paris, surrounded by curators, critics, and collectors praising his work. His paintings had become synonymous with emotional depth and vibrant storytelling, earning him a reputation as one of the most promising artists of his generation. Exhibitions and fame. Marcus's journey to global recognition began with his participation in Eleanor Sinclair's curated virtual exhibition. The event, titled Voices of the New Era, featured emerging artists whose work broke traditional boundaries. Marcus's pieces stood out, drawing attention from gallery owners across the world. Invitations to showcase his work poured in, each one an opportunity to reach new audiences. From New York to Tokyo, Marcus's paintings became the centerpiece of prestigious exhibitions. At an event in London, one of his works, The Bridge of Dreams, depicting a group of children playing on a rickety bridge, sold for a record $200,000. Critics marveled at his ability to capture human vulnerability and resilience, and his name began appearing in major publications like Art Monthly and The New Yorker. Despite his packed schedule, Marcus made it a point to connect with other artists and industry figures. He sought out conversations with people who could teach him, inspire him, or offer new perspectives. Yet, even as he mingled in the elite circles of the art world, he never forgot his roots. Lessons from the past. Wealth and fame were new to Marcus, but they didn't define him. He still wore his favorite paint-stained jacket when working, and he often visited the park where his journey had begun, sketching quietly and observing life as he always had. The struggles he had endured, the long nights working multiple jobs, the sting of rejection, remained vivid in his memory. They fueled his art and reminded him to stay humble. Marcus also made it a point to give back. He started mentoring young artists who lacked access to traditional avenues of success. Through workshops and online seminars, he shared his journey, emphasizing the importance of resilience and self-belief. One evening, Marcus sat with Eleanor in her Manhattan studio. As they sipped coffee, she remarked, "You've come so far, Marcus. But what I admire most is how you've stayed true to yourself." He smiled. "I'll never forget where I came from. That's what makes the success meaningful." Turning the tables. As Marcus's star continued to rise, so did the value of his art. Collectors clamored for his pieces, often entering bidding wars that drove prices to astonishing heights. His portfolio's valuation skyrocketed, surpassing the worth of many galleries he had once aspired to approach. Unbeknownst to him, this included Langston Gallery, the place where his dreams had once been dismissed. One day, as Marcus was reviewing his schedule, his manager handed him an invitation. It was from Langston Gallery, requesting his participation in an upcoming showcase featuring the most distinguished contemporary artists. Marcus stared at the card for a moment, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. The name Langston brought back memories of humiliation and rejection, but also of the determination it had sparked within him. "Does this name mean something to you?" his manager asked. Marcus nodded. "It's the first gallery that told me I wasn't good enough." His manager's brow furrowed. "Do you want to decline?" Marcus considered it, but then shook his head. "No. I think it's time to go back, not for revenge, but to show them who I've become." An invitation. The showcase was scheduled to take place in 2 months. Marcus decided to approach it thoughtfully, wanting to make a statement that reflected not just his success, but also the lessons he had learned along the way. He chose pieces for the exhibition that encapsulated his journey, works that spoke of struggle, growth, and triumph. When the day of the showcase arrived, Marcus stepped into Langston Gallery, this time as a celebrated artist. The once intimidating white walls and polished floors seemed smaller now, almost inconsequential. Mr. Langston, as polished as ever, greeted him without a hint of recognition. "Mr. Jackson, what an honor to have you here," Langston said, his tone dripping with cordiality. "Your work is truly remarkable." Marcus simply smiled, his eyes scanning the room where his pieces now hung as the centerpiece of the exhibition. Guests buzzed with excitement, marveling at the vibrant colors and emotional depth of his art. Langston, unaware of their shared history, basked in the prestige that Marcus's presence brought to his gallery. As the evening progressed, Marcus spoke with attendees, sharing the stories behind his work. He avoided mentioning his past encounter with Langston, choosing instead to let his art speak for itself. Yet, there was an undeniable satisfaction in knowing how far he had come. As the night drew to a close, Marcus stood before one of his most personal pieces, Resilience, a painting that depicted a lone figure standing tall against a stormy sky. Langston approached him, a glass of champagne in hand. "This piece is extraordinary," Langston said. "It's sure to attract significant offers." Marcus turned to him, his expression calm but resolute. "It means a lot to me. It's about standing firm when the world tells you that you're not enough." Langston nodded, oblivious to the deeper meaning behind the words. Marcus took one last look at the gallery that had once dismissed him, knowing that this time, he was leaving on his own terms. The return to the gallery. Marcus spent weeks preparing for his return to Langston Gallery. The invitation, which might have been a casual request for any other artist, held a profound significance for him. He remembered the way Mr. Langston had dismissed him years ago, the derision, the mockery, and the outright rejection of his work. This was no longer about seeking validation, it was about making a statement. Marcus chose 5 of his most evocative pieces to display at the event. Each painting represented a chapter of his journey, from struggle and rejection to triumph and recognition. These works weren't just art, they were a testament to resilience, the power of self-belief, and the value of treating everyone with dignity. Preparation for confrontation. In the days leading up to the event, Marcus coordinated with his team, a mix of close friends, art professionals, and mentors like Eleanor Sinclair. Together, they planned his entrance, presentation, and the story he wanted to tell. Marcus decided he wouldn't confront Mr. Langston outright but would let the circumstances unfold naturally, revealing the truth at the right moment. He also chose his outfit carefully, a tailored suit in deep navy, paired with a crisp white shirt and sleek leather shoes. His appearance was a stark contrast to the paint-streaked jacket and scuffed sneakers he'd worn the last time he stepped into Langston Gallery. This time, he wanted to embody confidence and success, not for Langston's approval, but as a reminder of his journey. The showcase event. The night of the showcase arrived, and Langston Gallery buzzed with anticipation. The event had been heavily promoted, thanks in large part to Marcus's name being attached to it. Attendees included influential figures from the art world, collectors, and journalists eager to cover the rising star's latest exhibition. As Marcus entered the gallery, all eyes turned to him. He was accompanied by Eleanor and a small entourage of supporters, their presence adding to the air of significance around him. The room fell silent for a brief moment before whispers filled the air. "That's Marcus Jackson," someone murmured. "He's the reason I came," another added. Marcus's entrance caused a stir, his reputation preceding him. He greeted guests warmly, shaking hands and exchanging pleasantries, his every movement exuding quiet confidence. Meanwhile, Mr. Langston, unaware of their shared history, watched from across the room with a satisfied smile. To him, Marcus was a star attraction, a feather in his cap. As Marcus made his way through the gallery, he couldn't help but notice his own work prominently displayed. The spotlight illuminated each piece, drawing admiration from attendees. Among them was Resilience, the painting he had created in the wake of his first rejection. Seeing it in this space felt like a full-circle moment. The moment of reckoning. Eventually, Mr. Langston approached Marcus, his demeanor professional and polite. "Mr. Jackson," he began, extending a hand. "It's an absolute pleasure to host your work here tonight. The response has been incredible." Marcus shook his hand, a small smile playing on his lips. "Thank you," he replied. "It's been quite the journey to get here." Langston nodded, oblivious to the deeper meaning behind Marcus's words. "Your pieces are remarkable. The depth, the emotion, it's clear why you've become such a sensation." Marcus decided it was time. "You know," he said, his tone measured, "this isn't my first visit to Langston Gallery." Langston tilted his head, confused. "Oh? I don't believe we've had the pleasure before." Marcus's smile faded, replaced by a look of quiet intensity. "We have. Years ago, I walked in here with a portfolio and a painting. I was an aspiring artist, just starting out. You dismissed me outright, mocked my appearance, and told me I didn't belong." The words hung in the air, sharp and undeniable. The conversations around them quieted as attendees began to listen. Langston's face paled. I don't recall," he stammered, his confidence faltering. "You wouldn't," Marcus said, his voice calm but firm. "Because to you, I wasn't worth remembering. But that moment stayed with me. It pushed me to work harder, to prove to myself that I was enough, even if you couldn't see it." Reactions from the crowd. The crowd, now fully focused on the exchange, reacted with a mix of shock and outrage. Murmurs of disapproval swept through the room as guests began to connect the dots. Many were appalled that Langston had once dismissed the very artist whose work now graced his walls. "Unbelievable," one guest whispered. "Artists deserve respect, no matter where they're starting from," another added. Langston, visibly flustered, attempted to salvage the situation. "Mr. Jackson, I had no idea. If I've made mistakes in the past, I deeply regret them." Marcus held his gaze, his expression unwavering. "It's not about an apology. It's about understanding the power of words and actions. Every artist who walks through these doors deserves respect, whether they're established or just beginning." The room erupted in applause, a powerful acknowledgement of Marcus's words. Langston stepped back, his once proud demeanor now replaced by a humbled silence. Marcus turned to the audience, his voice carrying a message of empowerment. "Art is about connection, about telling stories that matter. It's not defined by status or pedigree. If my journey proves anything, it's that we should never let rejection define our worth." The crowd cheered, their admiration for Marcus growing even stronger. For them, the evening wasn't just about celebrating his work, it was a lesson in perseverance, humility, and the importance of treating others with dignity. As the event continued, Marcus remained the center of attention, not for his confrontation with Langston, but for the grace and strength with which he handled it. By the end of the night, he had solidified not only his place in the art world but also his legacy as an advocate for those who dared to dream. Redemption and empowerment. The showcase at Langston Gallery left an indelible mark on everyone who attended. Marcus Jackson's words about perseverance and dignity resonated deeply, sparking conversations long after the event ended. For Marcus, however, the night wasn't about reliving past wounds, it was about what came next. Marcus's unexpected move. Days after the showcase, Marcus made a bold and unexpected decision. Using the wealth he had accumulated from his skyrocketing career, he approached Langston Gallery with an offer to purchase it outright. The proposal took Mr. Langston by surprise. He hesitated at first, unsure if Marcus's intent was rooted in revenge, but the artist assured him otherwise. "This isn't about settling old scores," Marcus explained during their meeting. "It's about creating a space where artists, no matter their background, are given the chance I never had." Langston, humbled by the offer and Marcus's demeanor, reluctantly agreed. The gallery, which had been struggling financially despite its prestige, was sold to Marcus within weeks. Word of the purchase spread quickly, further cementing Marcus's reputation as a visionary in the art world. A lesson in humility. For Mr. Langston, the experience was transformative. Watching Marcus step into a leadership role and handle the transition with grace made him reflect deeply on his past behavior. He began to see the biases and prejudices that had clouded his judgment over the years. Langston reached out to Marcus privately, expressing genuine remorse for the way he had treated him. "I didn't see you for who you truly are back then," he admitted. "But now, I understand the harm I caused, not just to you, but to others I may have dismissed without a second thought." Marcus accepted the apology, not out of obligation, but because he believed in the power of change. "We all grow," he replied. "The important thing is what we do with that growth." The gallery's transformation. Under Marcus's leadership, Langston Gallery underwent a complete transformation. Renamed Resilience Gallery in honor of Marcus's journey, the space became a hub for underrepresented artists, those who lacked traditional opportunities but possessed extraordinary talent. Marcus launched several initiatives, including mentorship programs for young artists and grants for those facing financial barriers. Monthly exhibitions celebrated diversity, featuring work from artists of all backgrounds and disciplines. The gallery also hosted workshops and community events, fostering a sense of inclusion and creativity. The once intimidating space was now filled with warmth and energy. Walls that had once showcased only select artists now displayed a kaleidoscope of voices and perspectives. For Marcus, the transformation was more than a business venture, it was a mission to ensure that no aspiring artist would ever feel the sting of rejection he once endured. Full circle moment. Months after the gallery's reopening, Marcus stood alone in the main exhibition hall, gazing at the walls adorned with vibrant, eclectic works. Each piece told a story, and together, they represented the power of perseverance, diversity, and creativity. Marcus couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought him here. From the late nights painting at his kitchen table to the humiliating encounter with Mr. Langston, every challenge had shaped him into the person he had become. The struggles, the rejection, and the triumphs were all part of the same tapestry, one that he was proud to share with the world. Eleanor Sinclair joined him, her face glowing with pride. "You've created something remarkable here, Marcus," she said. "This is more than a gallery, it's a movement." Marcus smiled, gratitude filling his heart. "I just want to give others what I didn't have, a chance to be seen and heard." Conclusion. The gallery's first major exhibition under Marcus's ownership culminated in a special unveiling. The room was packed with guests, including many who had supported Marcus from the beginning. As the lights dimmed, Marcus stepped onto the stage, addressing the crowd. "This piece is one of the most personal works I've ever created," he began, his voice steady but emotional. "It's a reflection of my journey, the pain, the growth, and the triumphs. It's a reminder that no matter how hard the road may seem, resilience will carry you through." The curtain fell away to reveal Resilience, a breathtaking painting of a lone figure standing tall against a stormy sky, the clouds parting to reveal a burst of light. The crowd erupted into applause, many moved to tears by the powerful imagery and the story behind it. As Marcus stood before the painting, he felt a profound sense of fulfillment. His journey had come full circle, not just for himself, but for everyone who had ever been told they weren't enough. He had turned rejection into opportunity, pain into purpose, and dreams into reality. And so, under the spotlight of his greatest triumph, Marcus Jackson proved that art was not just about what hung on the walls, it was about the lives it touched and the stories it told. With a heart full of gratitude and a vision for the future, Marcus embraced the next chapter, knowing that his best work was still yet to come.